lot.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
And you truly are an inspiration to me. So, with that being said, do you think that women who voted for Hillary, women who have strongly supported the feminist movement and supported the left, are feeling disenfranchised given the current climate of sexual brutality and oppression brought to light in Hollywood recently?
So I think that people have a willingness to blind themselves to facts that they don't want to see. And so what I've seen a lot is people saying, well, the problem of sexual harassment isn't unique to Hollywood and has nothing to do with our culture regarding sex, a leftist culture regarding sex. No, it has to do generally with men, right? It has to do generally with American society. It has to do generally with power relationships. It's funny how everybody is willing to generalize as soon as their ox is gored. Right? As soon as the left sees, wait, our culture, our feminist culture that we said that we were going to promulgate and was going to protect women hasn't protected women, nearly at all, then all of a sudden it turns into, well, it's not us that sin, it's men that sin. Right? And so I've been getting a lot of this online in the last couple of days. It's you men who haven't stood up. And I keep saying, like, what do you want me to do and I'll do it? Really, what do you want me to do? Like, if you show me a rapist like Harvey Weinstein allegedly is, then I will say send him to jail or castrate him, right? Like, this is not difficult. But if you just say to me, you don't acknowledge the rape culture, again, I need you to define that, and I need you to explain to me what I did. Like, really? I didn't do anything. And I think the vast majority of people in this room didn't do anything. And if they did do something, then maybe people should report it to the police, because that seems to me the best way to root out evil is to actually have law enforcement get involved. So the left is, so the question of what the left is doing about this, do they feel disenfranchised? No, I think they're just going to blame the same people they always blame because we're all in our own little bubbles. Should they feel disenfranchised? 100%. Because in a society that treats sex as transactional, in a society that basically reduces sex to any sort, just a physical transaction that is based solely on consent, it makes it very difficult to explain why it is that the casting couch in Hollywood is bad per se. Right? There's actually, like, feminist theory says that it's bad because of power imbalances, but the sort of libertarian culture of the left suggests that power imbalance doesn't have anything to do with it. If I feel like trading my body for a part in a movie, well, that's my business. And if you say differently, then you're slut-shaming me. Right? So that's, well, you can't really have it both ways. Either it's bad or it's not bad. And if we are going to fight sexual harassment and sexual assault, it seems to me that we have to do a couple of things. One, we have to reinvest sex with value beyond just a physical transaction. It's not just two people who are getting each other's rocks off. It actually means something beyond that. There's a relationship that's attached to it. And beyond that, I think that we need to re-inculcate in men themselves, not just the teach men not to rape routine. Like, again, it's such a weird concept. Like, when I was 11, my dad didn't sit me down and say, son, don't rape people. Like, if you have to teach your child that, my guess is that you got a bigger problem than that on your hands. What my dad taught me was to be a gentleman and to treat women with respect. And that has to do with being a gentleman and recognizing differences in sex roles. Because one of the things that's happened is that traditional masculinity, the idea that it is a man's job to protect women, this is one of our jobs as human beings, as men, to protect women, the feminist movement doesn't like that. Well, then you can't blame us for not protecting women if you don't want us to protect women. Like, I want to protect women. I think men should protect women. I think one of the reasons God put man on earth is to protect women. Okay, well, then it is incumbent on me to protect women. But if you're telling me that I can't even open a door for a woman because this is somehow an offense to her honor, and that if I say that it's man's job to protect women, that this is somehow reinforcing gender stereotypes, then don't come whining to me when bad stuff happens. Because the answer to bad behavior is good behavior. The answer to vice is virtue. The answer to vice isn't just yelling and hashtagging crap.
Hello, my name is David Hamilton. Again, super happy you're here like everyone else. My question is, Prairie University came out with a video. It was like why the left, or how the left is fundamentally different than the right. Really great video, changed my perception on a lot of things. But one thing they talked about was fundamentally the right act from the inside out, and fundamentally the left act from the outside in. And so I guess engaging people on the campus who are fundamentally different than you, like how do you go about doing that? And then also, how do you go about doing that, like with politics? Some people who just fundamentally don't see it the way that you do.
Well, so I think that you have to have a common language. So, for example, I'm a religious person. I rarely cite religion. In any argument that I make, I try to have a secular rationale because I'm trying to speak a language that I think more people speak and that I think everyone is capable of speaking. I think that the first thing that you have to do is you have to remove a self-appointed sense of virtue that so many people on the left have. I'm a better person than you. Right? That's why I started the speech tonight by suggesting, no, you're not. Right? right? All the people in here believe the same things that you believe about evil behavior. Now, can we get down to what we actually think politics are about? If you remove the unearned sense of moral superiority that the left loves to engage in, then they actually have to get down to business. And this does work. I mean, I've done it routinely on television. If you ever watch me debate anybody on the left, it's actually my first move, always, right? Which is to say, okay, we're going to not insult each other here. Now let's have a discussion. And half the time that ends the discussion because there are no more arguments other than the insults. And if somebody is insulting you, I would say that the best thing you can do is just walk away from the conversation sometimes because it's not worth wasting your time. But I think that you have to determine whether somebody is worth engaging or not pretty much in the first 30 seconds of a conversation. A lot of conversations are not necessarily worth engaging.
Mr. Shapiro, thank you for coming out, like everyone else has said. My question is, so you've had former Libertarian presidential candidate Austin Peterson on your show a few times, and you've come out in support of a lot of his ideas and what he stands for. And he is now running in Missouri for Senate as a Republican, and his chances of getting elected have skyrocketed just by putting an R next to his name, even though he's running with the same policy positions, et cetera. So my question is, how do you feel about the two-party system and a possible conservative-libertarian alliance?
So I think a conservative-libertarian merger is the direction in which the Republican Party is going to end up moving. And what I mean by this is I think that conservatives have to understand that libertarians are basically right about government, that government sucks at everything. And libertarians need to understand that conservatives are right, that you do need social networks outside of government of people helping each other and promulgating common values. There's unfortunately in some parts of the libertarian movement this sort of antipathy toward churches and synagogues, that these are purveyors of untruth. Right? These are people who believe in the spaghetti monster. Ooh, right? And I think that a lot of libertarians are going to have to get over that crap. Because the fact is that without the virtues that are instilled by religion, there cannot be a free society, right? Even Voltaire, who is an atheist, recognized that he wanted his servant and his wife to be religious people. He said they would steal from him and cuckold him less if they were. So even atheist libertarians should probably acknowledge that one. I do think that merger is going to happen. I think it's already happening, frankly. But that's going to be the battle inside the Republican Party, is going to be basically whether there's a conservative liberal merger. Whether the Republican Party becomes a big government party that basically just wants closed borders, or whether it's going to be a party that is more libertarian in orientation.
Hello, Mr. Shapiro. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm a huge fan. You're one of the biggest role models for me. I've seen you so many times.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
My question basically is, as obviously a black man,
I missed it, sorry. When I say I'm colorblind, I mean I'm like physically colorblind.
And as a conservative who, one, does not believe in white privilege, I don't believe that exists, and as someone who believes in individualism and does not believe that he is a victim, I'm obviously at, in my opinion, the greatest university, how do I basically combat primarily other blacks who basically call me names, the classics, Uncle Tom, all that jazz, and how do I combat that and basically explain to them how they, like me, are not victims?
So, I think that the first thing that you have to do is something that you've already talked about, which is just you have to say, you're an individual, I'm an individual. Let's stop talking as black people and let's start talking as individuals. Now, as an individual, would you like to succeed in life? Would you like, and this is what you should say, right? You should say, do you want to succeed in life? Because you're obviously succeeding, but there are a lot of people who are not. And one of the great barriers to success is feeling that you're a victim and feeling that society is putting you behind the 8 ball. How about try my way for a year? Right? Try my way for a year, where you ignore the societal obstacles that face you, and you just put your nose to the grindstone and you work really hard. And I promise you, there are going to be a lot of people out there who are willing to help you and want to see you succeed. And no one has ever gotten ahead by complaining about the society itself. The way that you get ahead in America, at least in a free country, right? In an oppressive country, then maybe this helps. But in a free country, then the only way you get ahead is as an individual. If someone wants to, first of all, I think that if someone attributes a name to you like that, the first thing that you can say is that if someone says, you're an Uncle Tom, I think the first thing that you should say is, well, no, you're an asshole. Because there's more evidence that you're an asshole than that you're an Uncle Tom. and I mean that very seriously. Slurring people without evidence is one of my least favorite games. And if somebody slurs you that way, I'm not sure you can honestly have a great conversation with them anyway. But I think that when you treat people as individuals, there's a certain seductive nature to that, because everyone in the end wants to be treated as more than their skin color. I think you're doing a great job of that right now. I think I'm probably talking to a future senator from the state. So thanks for coming. Thanks for asking the question.
Hey, Ben. My name's Keegan. I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm not sure if you've noticed recently, but I'm a huge sports fan, and recently I've noticed how ESPN's becoming really left-wing and how they're embracing left.
Yeah, you caught on.
Yeah, and the anthem protests. Yeah, I know, big mystery, right? I also got a follow-up question after this, but I'm just saying, why is ESPN embracing that left-wing politics into their audience? Okay,
so I think that some of it is bubble think, and some of it I think is actual market research that's driving them to the left. So the bubble think is pretty simple. Most of the people in sports media exist on the coast. They exist in New York or LA. They exist in big media markets. Those big media markets lean left, so the pool from which they're drawing is a bunch of people who are left. The market research that I'm talking about, and I actually have done a pretty deep dive on ESPN because I used to watch ESPN incessantly. I used to love ESPN. I used to be a subscriber to Sports Illustrated. I canceled my subscription circa 2015 when every week it seemed they were putting Caitlyn Jenner on the cover, someone who had not been athletically relevant since before my birth. And so at that point I was like, okay, if I want to read about transgenderism, I'll get People magazine. If I want to read about sports, please give me some news about a sport involving balls. Kind of went somewhere I wasn't expecting, but you know. So I think here's what the market research says. What the market research says is that ESPN spends an outsized amount of time focusing on the NBA. They think that's the real growth area, is the NBA. And if you look at the constituency of people who watch the NBA, it is disproportionately black folks who watch the NBA and are watching longer hours. Particularly young black men are watching the NBA in larger numbers. Those people tend to be more politically to the left. And that means that ESPN is skewing to the left in order to pick up some of those viewers. That at least would not be illogical. That would at least make a certain amount of sense. I think it's a big mistake on their part because I think that, number one, I love the NBA. I love watching the NBA, but I don't want my NBA infused with politics. I think black folks are just as likely to watch the NBA whether it's infused with politics or not. When we all tune into ESPN, I think we all are wanting to watch the same thing. And I'm not really that concerned about what LeBron James' message is putting on his sneakers on opening night. And I'm much more concerned with, are these people good at basketball? I think it's a mistake by ESPN. I think they're losing subscribers hand over fist, and I think that they should. But I think that that's probably the combined reason behind the move to the left.
All right, thank you. Now, my follow-up question is, do you think the University of Tennessee should keep Bush Jones?
So I do not know enough about this issue to speak to it.